Hey there, I am back with another Free the Pip Friday. This is the series where we open up some of the rarest decks and collector's editions around, give you guys a chance to see what they're all about. This week we're going to be looking at Like Lightning from 7th Nation Atelier. 7th Nation is sort of led by lead designer Sviatoslav Pashchuk. He's an incredibly talented artist, probably best known for his ornate and highly realistic court cards. And we're going to get a chance to see that on display here in this deck. Now, the deck comes in 3 different colorways. The first one you see here is the copper edition with that green and copper color. You also have the gold edition and my favorite, the cobalt blue version. But it's not these 3 standard decks that we're here to look at. We're actually here to look at this. This is the limited edition collector's set. Not only do you get 3 gilded versions of the deck numbered to 100, but you also get this beautiful packaging with this walnut colored box. So really great look to it overall. I want to give a shout out and a thank you to Paul, good friend of mine. He actually lent me his collector sets so that I could show it to you guys on the channel. So really appreciate him for that. But let's get into it, find out what this deck is all about. All right, starting with the theme. The theme of the deck is the Pony Express, and it's meant to celebrate the 160-year anniversary of the legendary mail service. It was founded back in April of 1860, was in operation for only about 19 months, and it really had this mission of cutting down on the time it took to deliver letters. Back at that time, you really had to use a covered wagon, and it could take 3 weeks to deliver a letter across the country. Pony Express promised to deliver that, or to drive that down to just 10 days. And they did that by spacing out 186 stations, spaced every 10 miles along this 1,900-mile route that went from Missouri to California. Riders would race along that trail, swapping horses at the stations that they needed to, swapping riders if they were tired, and they would make that trip as fast as they possibly could, riding day and night. And in doing so, they were able to deliver on that promise and drive that delivery time down. Now, it was not a cheap service. It cost $5 to mail a half-ounce letter, which in $1860 is a tremendous amount. It was 25,000% more than the 2 cents that it cost for normal mail. But people paid it to get their letters there as fast as possible. There were obviously perils along the way these riders had to face, and some of the more famous riders really went down in legend for their contributions during that brief stretch that the Pony Express was running. So that's the story and the inspiration behind the deck, but let's take a look at this box first that they all come in. It's really beautiful. So it's done in a walnut colored plywood, really great finish on it. I love how the grain just sort of pops out on this, really gives it a unique and individualized feel overall. And the top of the box is given this laser engraving treatment. Really nice, fairly deep laser engraving, and you can see the Like Lightning sort of title card there on the front. You have Like Lightning across the bottom, Wild at Heart tagline on the top, the Spirit of America West. Of course, this was running in the western part of America. And then that large sort of Pony Express emblem there in the center gives mention to the fact that this ran from Sacramento, California to St. Joseph, Missouri. Really beautifully done, designed by 7th Nation Atelier, and lots of little sort of ornate details to finish it out. The rest of the box is fairly plain, no other details that are engraved on this or otherwise, but it is finished out with these simple leather straps that are given these brass rivets. Really nice touch to it overall, really lends itself to that vintage feel of the box overall. And as you open this up, you'll see that some of that detailing continues on the inside. So you have the brass hinges, but the real impressive part is the engraving on the inside. You're given not just this certificate of appreciation on the inside that's laser engraved, but they're individualized as well. So you can see Paul's name here mentioned, since this is his box set, so it's given his specific name, and you're given a thank you from the 7th Nation Atelier team. Really cool touch to it overall. Only 100 of these boxes were made, just like the 100 to match the 100 gilded sets that are put within. So really nice job on the box itself. You can see here it's separated into a couple of compartments. One side here has the Cobalt version of the deck, and then on the other side you have this brown box that houses the other two versions. Really beautiful, just black ink against that thick, heavy cardboard stock box. You have the Like Lightning emblem here in the center, so Like Lightning playing cards celebrating the 160-year anniversary. Large spade pip in the middle, complete with the Pony Express rider silhouetted there in the middle. And then you have the dates of the Pony Express. Really beautiful vine work all the way around, so really, really nicely done. On the two sides, you get some nice little individualized bits. One side, you have the leather strap and the wax seal with 7th Nation Atelier on it. Also mentions that this box was handcrafted by Gambler's Warehouse. And then on the other side, you'll see it's hand numbered by the 7th Nation Atelier team, and that's done on this little red sticker here. So you have the Pony Express red sticker that extends down to the side where you'll see they're individually labeled. So Paul gets his name mentioned here. Of course, he got box number 23. You can slide that leather strap off pretty simply. Of course, you get a little bit of staining there, just left over from the wax. But that completes the really beautiful box. You can lift that top off. It's a little bit stuck here, but as you lift that off, you'll see the other two decks housed within. So you get the gold version and the copper version. So really beautiful finishes to this box overall. Just a great housing for some beautiful decks. But we want to see the decks themselves, so let's get this put off to the side and we'll get a chance to look at the 3 different versions of the deck. Now we're definitely gonna look at all of them, but let's start out with the gold version of the deck. All right, so like I said, this is the gilded version of the deck. The tuck cases themselves are for the most part the same as the original tuck cases, or the more standard ones, and they're absolutely beautiful. The gold version's done on a matte brown cardstock, but you can barely see any of that brown because it is covered with multiple colors of foil and embossing. You have the gold foil, some black foil on the side here, and even some white foil there on the Like Lightning label in the center. Really beautiful shine to it overall, and that light embossing just gives it a great feel overall. You have the Like Lightning name in the center, and then lots of ornate details and extra little writings all the way around, just covering the background here. So you have the PE monogram there for Pony Express, mentions Spirit of America West, running from California to Missouri, premium playing cards, and then that Pony Express emblem that we saw before makes its appearance on the bottom of the tuck case. Really nicely done. Love the gold foiling, and I really, really like the black foiling as well. It gives a nice contrasting pop. Love the colors on this one. I think it's really well done, really nicely chosen colors. On the side, you get Like Lightning, same thing on the other. Bottom has your ad copy for the 7th Nation Atelier team, and of course mentions the art by Sviatoslav Pashchuk. Top has a few more little gold and black foil details, and the back's not the back design of the cards, but gives a little sort of what I think of as a commemorative plaque mentioning the theme of the deck. So celebrating the 160-year anniversary of the Pony Express. A little bit of copy there describing the inspiration. More black foil leaf work all the way around, and just beautifully ornate back here to the tuck case. So a really nice tuck case, finished out with a red and white, relatively simple tuck seal. You have the 7th Nation Atelier logo there at the top, and you can see this is a gilded edition, numbered out of 100. And in a nice touch, all 3 decks and the box that you get here are all matching numbers. So you see 23 here, also had 23 on the box itself, and the other 2 are also going to be numbered 23 out of 100. Inner flap here just has a little bit more gold detailing and nothing printed on the interior of the tuck case. Beautiful job on the tuck case. One of the best parts of the entire package, in my opinion. I think they did a great job on this. All right, now into the cards. You probably saw the first part just peeking out as we pull this out, and that's that beautiful gold gilding. Really nicely done. You get that nice, you can see there my nail, the mirror finish, really smooth gilding on this. Really did a great job with it, and not too bad on the sticking either. Sometimes with the gilding you get really sticky cards. These weren't too bad at all. So really nicely done overall. Love the luxury that you get with that extra gilding. All right, back design of the cards, and here it is. Now I gotta say, there was a little bit of a mishap with the printers. The colors you see here, I think were intended to pop a little bit more. Some of this gold color you see here was supposed to be a metallic ink, which I really think would have lent itself well. That said, this one doesn't get the gold metallic ink and just got regular gold ink just due to a mishap with the printer. So I think that's a little bit of a shame, but you can still see a lot of detail going on the back design here. Of course, the main elements going to be the dual Pony Express logos there, or the emblems, California to Missouri, Sacramento to St. Joseph, and then you have the dates up here at the top, 1860 to 1861. Reflected on the bottom, and then lots of explosion of details throughout. You have the horseshoes, of course the horses played a role there. You have the little PE, Pony Express monograms there on the sides, and then these extra little floral elements, and then all the rest of the detailing in the back covered with vine work all the way through. It's a really nice design, a lot of beautiful artwork. A couple of things I wish would have been changed out of this. Obviously the metallic inks I mentioned. I also think, I wish they hadn't gone with quite as thick of a border. I think that would have helped. And really for me, as much as I think the artwork's great here, I think this back design just has too many focal points. I think your eye's drawn, whether it's to the horseshoes, the Pony Express emblems, these corner elements, your eyes just sort of drawn all over the place. And I wish the back design had just a little bit better flow and focus to it. That said, really beautiful artwork as always. So I think still a really nice back design, just could have been improved in a couple of ways. All right, extra cards you get. So the Jokers pay tribute to a couple of the dangers that riders may have faced along the road. Of course, they were riding through deserts, so rattlesnakes and other animals were probably a danger they faced, but so were Native American attacks. They had to ride through lands that were owned by some of the Native Americans, some of their reservations, and in doing so, they really potentially faced a lot of attacks from those Native Americans. That was a real danger they faced. And so you get the tomahawks, the arrows, and the feather that are just sort of giving a brief symbol of some of those dangers they would face. Really beautiful artwork on these, just super high detail on these. As zoom in, you can see just like individual scales or on that snake, just really nicely done. This has Joker in the corners, and that finishes those out. All right, you also get a blank face card. Always nice to get a gaff. And you get a duplicate Ace of Spades. So this is the normal Ace of Spades, and this is the duplicate Ace of Spades. Duplicate Ace of Spades actually kind of functions maybe even as an extra Joker, but features a woman there in the center, maybe an entertainer that you'd find in a bar along the way, but a really beautiful look. And you get a little sneak peek there of that highly detailed work that Sviatoslav Pashchuk does in his drawings. Really nicely done. But this is the Ace of Spades special card. Really nicely done on that. So duplicate Ace of Spades. But now into the main deck, and we'll start with the aces. The true Ace of Spades is honestly relatively simple compared to the duplicate one, but this is definitely the power ace in the deck. You have that black and white spade pip that pays tribute to the Pony Express with the banner here with the dates featured, and of course that silhouetted rider in the middle. Love the look to it overall. Really like those sort of ornate details all the way through, and finishes and textures. Extra little details, you get the little horseshoes on the side flanking it, and of course the name of the deck, Like Lightning premium playing cards, and then celebrating the 160-year anniversary. Nicely framed up deck. Could have done without this extra little tiny print at the top and bottom, the Spirit of the America West, and designed by the Seventh Nation Atelier. So a little bit small and hard to read, but still really nicely done. You do get a classic black and still very familiar pip and index in the corner, but they are slightly customized. And then the other three aces are given simpler looks to them, but they all get these sort of, to me, Southwest inspired looks to the detailing in the pips. Now the rest of the pips are not going to be this ornate, but you get a little extra embellishment on the ace cards. Kind of reminds me of like a pattern you'd find like on a bandana or something like that. So there's your aces. The rest of the number cards, like I said, are a good bit simpler. Just a classic solid colored pip in the center. A little bit smaller than your usual pips, but fairly standard and familiar layout. So these are going to be nice functional number cards if you use these. Blacks are black, reds are red. Nothing too crazy and out of the ordinary. Club's probably the most custom of the pips, but still very highly recognizable. And then there's your hearts. So that's the number cards, but let's get into the highlight of a Sviatoslav Pashchuk deck, and that is the court cards. He always does fantastic work on the court cards. And we take a look at the first one here, and you can see just the absolutely beautiful detailing work that he puts in here. You can see here one of those Pony Express riders riding on his horse, and just such fantastic, anatomical detail. You can see the stretched muscles in the horse's face. Just really great artwork, great flow. You can feel the wind blowing through here. Just really nicely done. Two-way design, and the center gives you a banner with really tiny letters, hard to read in a couple spots, that tell you about the actual characters that inspired some of the court cards. Now, I will caveat and say he took artistic liberty for sure. While the cards are inspired by actual characters, and we'll talk about some of those characters, they don't actually look too much like the characters that inspired them, but still a beautiful, beautiful look overall. And let's talk about some of the characters that inspired this. So the King of Clubs here, this is Johnny Fry. He's actually was a 20-year-old at the time, and he's usually the one who's credited as the rider of the very first leg of the first westbound trip. So April 3rd, 1860, he was actually the one who set out. His first leg was actually only 1/2 of a mile, but he rode down to the Missouri River. And today there's actually still one letter that survived. And it's one of the letters that he carried on his bag on that fateful day. So Johnny Fry featured on the King of Clubs. The next one, in the center here, a little bit hard to read, but it says Johnson William. I think that's actually a little bit of an error. I couldn't find a Johnson William, but there was somebody named Johnson William Richardson, or Billy Richardson as he went by. He was also believed to be one of those first westbound riders. He was actually a horse, raced horses before finally signing up to be part of the Pony Express. And so he gets a feature on the King of Hearts. So another one of those firsts. So he was one of the first riders. It's just debated as to whether he or Johnny Fry was the one who actually rode the very first leg. But like the little pop of pink in there. Jack of Spades and Jack of Hearts feature a pair of brothers, Gus and Charles Cliff. The two brothers, is actually a photo that survived to this day that shows these two brothers along with Billy Richardson and Johnny Fry. So the four of them still survive in a photograph to today. So really nice to look to those guys. King of Spades, this one features Robert Haslam. Robert Haslam, or he was known as Pony Bob Haslam, he was said to actually have the very longest round trip ride ever. He rode 380 miles straight. But that wasn't actually his most famous ride. His most famous ride, he rode a 120-mile ride, where it was the fastest trip that anybody had ever taken on the trail. In his bag of mail, one of the letters, or one of the articles in his bag, was the inauguration address for Abraham Lincoln. So that was probably his most famous ride. Another famous endurance rider, Jack Heatley, is given a credit on the King of Diamonds. His greatest performance, he rode 31 hours straight, 340 miles without any rest. And supposedly, according to the story, he fell asleep for the last 5 miles. He was just so dead tired. And so the horse rode on its own for the last 5 miles, and he rode up to the last station completely dead asleep. So there's Jack Heatley. The Jack of Diamonds, this is Alex Carlisle. I couldn't find too much about him. He actually apparently only rode for a couple of months before leaving the service. He had tuberculosis, and so that kind of sidelined him. But there are actually a few people that believe he might have been the first rider, not Johnny Fry. But there's Alex Carlisle featured there. Next up, we have the Jack of Clubs. This is William Cody, or he's better known as Buffalo Bill Cody. Funny story about him. So in his autobiography, he wrote that he had run some stints with the Pony Express, but historians today actually believe that despite his fame, he never actually rode in the Pony Express. He was famous as a showman. He was best known for his Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. And during that show, he featured a lot of shticks that were that went after the Pony Express and kind of highlighted the Pony Express. He claimed to have been part of it, but according to historians, never did ride in it. And then you have the Queens. Now, women, at least as far as I could find, didn't actually ride as Pony Express riders, so there's definitely some artistic liberties taken here. But these four women that we have here, we have Molly Slade, Sophia Martin, Alsacia Moore, and Louisa Freeman. These 4 women played a really significant role themselves. So I mentioned those 183 stations that were spaced along the route, and that was actually the most dangerous job of all, manning those stations. And these women were some of the ones they did, or their families were the ones that manned those stations. It was super dangerous because unlike the rider who was moving through the land, you were this sort of stationary target. And so those areas were often really focal points for some of the Native Americans in the area, often subject to different attacks. So while these women didn't didn't ride the horses themselves like they're pictured here, they all played a significant role in the success of the Pony Express. And so I love that he featured the females here, even though, like I said, they weren't riders. So great look overall to the court cards. Now that is just the gold version. Let's take a quick look at the other 2 versions of the deck because I think they are truly impressive. All right, next up we have the copper version. Now the tuck case, all the detailing is going to be the same, only the coloring is going to be changed. Here we have a green matte cardstock for the back, or for the main stock, and then you have gold or copper and green foil on here. It's a great combination. I really like the green foil on this one. It's a great mix with the copper overall and just shines all the way through. Same color tuck seal, same numbering on the tuck seal. But then of course, as you open it up, and it's stuck here a little bit, you get a different color foiling on the cards themselves. So these cards, remember those, the gold version was done in gold. Of course, the copper version has a copper foil. I really like this this color of gilding. Not one that I've seen too often, but it kind of lends itself this sort of aged look or aged feel to it that I think is just really fitting for the deck. The only other change on this is the back design of the cards. It's same design but recolored, and this one it's given this sort of bluish color with that copper, again, non-metallic ink. This is probably my least favorite of the back designs. I like the gold one a good bit better. For me, that blue, and especially with this being blue and the tuck case being green, I think was a little bit of a miss. But still, some of those same really beautiful details here. So that is the copper version. And last but not least is my favorite of the tucks, and that's the cobalt blue. Really love the colors on this. Red cardstock with the red and bright blue foil on this one. This one just really pops to me. Love how bright, how vibrant this one is. As you open it up, of course, that same, we're at number 23 once more. And as you open it up, you get, of course, some fantastic cobalt blue foiling on this. Again, really bright color, one that I personally haven't seen in any gilding and just really pops. So my favorite color scheme. Unfortunately for me, yeah, I wish they'd changed up the back design as well. These use the same back design colors as the gold version, so you just get the gold backs. Wish the colors had been changed to match that cobalt theme just because I think it's so nice overall. But they chose to go with the same back designs of the cards. The faces in all 3 decks are the same. You're not going to see any changes on these in color or otherwise. So it's really just the differences between them are primarily going to be the back design. Of course, these 2 back designs are the same. The tucks and the color of the gilding. Now, as far as handling of these, it's a gilded deck, so take it with a little grain of salt. I mentioned it's not too much sticking, but it's still a deck that's not going to fan especially well. You definitely get some clumping when you try to fan it. That said, these handle reasonably well for a gilded deck, so not too much of a complaint there. Uses of the deck, look, the gilded version, this is a collector's set above all other things. I don't think this is one you're going to see broken out too much for gameplay or anything like that. So for the regular set, I would say, look, it's an art piece, something to enjoy, really enjoy that gilding. Beautiful look to the box overall. Now that said, if you were to pick up the regular versions of the deck, these are still limited, but not as limited as the gilded versions. These, I think, would make for some really fun gameplay or something like that. I think would be a really great use for these. So something interesting to use for gameplay, I think, is how I'd use these. Now, speaking of which, I will mention, I did say these are limited, and you can see the numbering here on these. So the copper version numbered out of 1,000, gold out of 600, and then the cobalt blue out of 500. So limited on these, but obviously the main attraction is going to be the super limited 100 deck Gilded edition. But that's it. A little bit longer review, but obviously a lot to get through. But that's the look at the Like Lightning Collector's Edition box set. Hope you enjoy getting a chance to break into something that, you know, I felt very lucky to get to go break into myself. So hope you enjoyed this look. Thanks again to Paul for lending me his set. I'll be sure to get this back to you safe and sound. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe for more deck reviews and unboxings. Let me know what else you want to see, and I'll see you for the next one.